that you hear? Yes, it's me. I'm back. Freddie is back on the Winging It F1 podcast. I had a bit of a break for my sanity. I don't know, just for fun. And I'm back, and Nigel and Adam are still here, having done a fantastic job of holding the fort as a duo, as a podcast while we've been away. We're here for a Dutch Grand Prix preview. We're going to be singing you our rendition of Supermax at the end of the podcast, so stick around for that. But first, I'm going to introduce my beautiful co-hosts to this podcast, Adam and Nigel. Adam, you're still in America. How are you doing, mate? You looking forward to the Dutch Grand Prix?
Yeah, I think if I wasn't still in America, it'd be an issue. But yeah, I'm looking. It's nice to have the gang back together. It's fun doing it with Nigel, but now we're all back, and yeah, it's exciting and excited to get up at probably 7:30 to be able to watch the Dutch Grand Prix qualifying, which I did at Spa as well, and watched the race, but didn't watch the race, which was a morning wasted. But hopefully that doesn't happen this time. So yeah, I'm excited.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that's good to hear. Nigel, how are you doing?
Amazing. Like I said to Adam and Freddie before we started recording, I can't see the videos for some reason, but I can hear them, so I don't know what they're doing, and I'll have to look back afterwards and find out.
Yeah, you will do. I mean, for the most part, we're able to see you, so we can. You're off the hook, but we're not. So Adam and I can do whatever we want on this vodcast side of the podcast. But yeah, we're going to get straight to it because it's a big news moment for F1. We've not got much time. I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background having an absolute fit.
Oh, I thought I was like outside my house.
Or maybe I am. Anyway, you can't see my video, but yes. So we're going to go straight to it. The big news that broke last night, completely unwarranted, completely way too early, and caught us all by surprise. I'd left work already by that time, and I had to go back to work. Kimi Räikkönen retiring from Formula One at the end of the 2021 season. He's had a good run, but yeah, what do you make of it, Nigel? Give us your Kimi thoughts.
Oof. It's a strange one because, I mean, for him to
that's already too many syllables for a Kimi thought.
Oh.
I was just making.
I thought there was a delay. No, I'll carry on. Yeah, it's a weird one because he's been around for 20 years, which is kind of mad for someone like Kimi Räikkönen, who you kind of think he could have dropped out of F1 7 or 8 years ago. So he's had a great career, I think, and I think it's best to judge him on his McLaren days because he was extraordinary. He was like Verstappen now. He was just rapid, and he was against 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher. Fernando Alonso was on the rise as well, and he was arguably just as fast as them, and he thoroughly deserved to win a world title, arguably two. And I don't think he's a legend, but I think he's one of the modern greats, is how I'd summarise his career.
I think he's a legendary personality. He's iconic in F1 and has been for most of my lifetime, really, all of my lifetime, actually, which is weird to think about. But moving on from that, yeah, he's, he could have kind of packed up at any point, but he hasn't. And I kind of like that he's just carried on and he knows he can carry on. And I think the World Championship that he did get is quite a significant part of that, in that, I think that's been a big part of his draw, certainly since leaving Ferrari and going to Alfa Romeo and having these 3 more seasons with Alfa Romeo. But, even past his McLaren days, his time at his first spell at Ferrari was, fantastic and yielded a world title, had one fantastic season and yielded a world title that was thoroughly deserved despite being completely unexpected and slightly heartbreaking. And his time at Lotus as well was, he was really strong in his 2 seasons at Lotus. He was doing very well. He nearly bankrupted them because he was doing so well in podium bonuses and all of that. So, yeah, I think expected, and, I don't know how much he was kind of bringing to the sport, as he got older. And, we discussed on-track performances hasn't been the best, and last weekend at Spa was a good example of that. But, you know, he's been such an integral part of F1, and I think, you know, it'll be a shame. I like his style and the Kimi icon, and I think it'll be a shame to see that go.
Yeah, it will be a shame. I think I get a lot of stick on this podcast for being the old one, and it was about around the time of my first birthday was when Kimi did his first F1 test. So that sort of speaks volumes, particularly to you two, about his tenure in F1. And yeah, I agree with Nigel.
He's been racing for 42 years.
There we go. He was 42 years old himself. I agree with Nigel on, remember him by his McLaren days. Drivers peak at different times. And I think, Kimi definitely peaked around 2005. I think that was a brilliant season. It was mad how good he was in that McLaren. And I think Fernando Alonso, I think, was lucky to get that championship, in my opinion. And like Adam said, his Lotus days were good. It's a shame it sort of did tail off up against Alonso and Vettel, and now, you know, Giovinazzi. So it's a shame it sort of tailed off against these other three great drivers. But it became such a running joke that he was going to stay in F1 for another year and another year and another year. I remember everyone going, well, Kimi will retire in 2015. But now it was still a possibility, really, that he would remain for the 2022 F1 season. And I think that's bonkers. I think that's brilliant. I think that's really, really brilliant. Really, really.
I think the two things that stand out for me is he only did 23 races in his whole racing career before he joined F1, which nowadays is unthinkable. That is an obscene number. I think Christian Lundgaard did 50 at the end of last year, and he's still in F2, for example. Good, and Raikkonen, he's also done 1/3 of all of the F1 races ever. I think he's like 342, 341 races now. There's been well over 1,050, something like that. So those are just incredible numbers. And he was never the same after he won the world title. It was almost like he did what he wanted to do, and then he didn't sack it off, but he probably didn't have the same intensity or bring the same focus, perhaps, that, you know, every weekend that you need to do to win a championship. But he was just so good that 15, 16 years ago. And even now, I still think he's a match for Giovinazzi. And it is the right time to go. But he's not the worst five. He's not in my worst five drivers at the moment. So, but it's definitely the right time to go, I think.
I think his 07 win is, you know, you say he peaked in 05. But, you know, I still think he kept that skill. Maybe, you know, like you say, I think his time at Ferrari, definitely after the world title, he wasn't the same. But after the American Grand Prix, then he finished all but one race on the podium. So the second half, over half the season, he was on the podium apart from one retirement, which is just incredible consistency, and came on strong at the end. And, you know, I think it's one of the most underrated World Championship wins, really, because he was strong there, and there was the McLaren element, and Ferrari probably didn't have a right to win that driver's title, really, and McLaren did help them with that. But equally, Kimi was fantastic, and you know, he was still winning races in Lotus, which again was like an underdog story. So it's kind of, but I think definitely after that, you know, once he went back to Ferrari, that was really the end of any kind of peak Raikkonen. But it's a shame, and it would have been funny if he stayed around for another 5 years, to be honest, and entirely believable. But also his record of the most race starts, I don't know, maybe Alonso will beat that. I don't know if Hamilton will. I don't know if Vettel will. I kind of imagine not really. So it's such a long time to be in the sport.
I think there's no point. I think there's no point of thinking about most starts when Verstappen started so young. That's just going to come round to bite everyone when he's done 4,000 races by the time he's 36. But I think Kimi had a few peaks in his second Ferrari stint. I think pole at Monaco in 2017 stands out to me just because it was pure like, whoa, Kimi, what are you doing? Why are you doing well? That's not supposed to happen. But then he did sort of build on that, and his 2018 season was a very good season as a number 2 driver. He did a very good job, I think, in that year, and was third in the championship. So that, I think, was showed how high his peaks were. If we're talking about Ferrari as not a peak and that kind of thing. But yeah, we've got a lot more to talk about, because we could go on and do a Kimi podcast forever, but we're not, because we've got to talk about the dominoes that Kimi's retirement looks set to push over. That's the segue we're doing, because the dominoes haven't fallen yet, but we've got lots of announcements due to come. If we're to believe Paddock gossip, which we do, we're essentially very sure that George Russell is going to be a Mercedes driver for 2022. This has basically been an open secret since forever. So yes, we expect that to be announced next week sometime. We also expect Valtteri Bottas to go to Alfa Romeo, to be partnered by another driver, not Antonio Giovinazzi, is the certainty on that. We expect Nicholas Latifi to remain at Williams for a third year, which I think is justified after two pretty decent performances, and to be partnered by Nigel's favourite, Alex Albon. So let's delve into the nitty gritty and the meat of all of this. Right, Adam, we're going to start with you on George Russell. He said today that he knows what he's doing. Do you think it's just a matter of crossing I's and dotting T's, or the other way around?
I don't think you can cross eyes. Well, I mean, you can, but not on the contract. I think it'd just be weird.
And that's the point of the phrase.
I don't know if it's kind of been such an open secret, just because of the fact that he probably should have been there last year and he wasn't. And it just kind of feels like it's been so long that we've been expecting Russell to go to Mercedes and it hasn't come out. But having said that, it feels like this is finally the time, and he completely deserves it. He showed at Spa, just in the rain, which equalises everything, how good of a driver he is on, driver's conditions on a driver's track. And, it's exciting for him. And, to see post Hamilton, he should still be there if he can take the level of performance he had at Sakir through into that Mercedes seat. And yeah, I'm very happy for him. And, I know Nigel thinks he's overrated, but I think, he's justified the move completely.
I said that quite a long time ago.
Nigel,
he has changed my mind.
fight back.
Recently.
Well, there's delay. Nigel, you do your piece on George Russell. That's what we want now.
Oh,
your comment.
I think, it's the right move. I think that's all I've got to say. This is the right move, and we'll find out how well he does. There you go.
Yeah, I think so too. I think some of his performances this year have been exemplary. There have been a few mistakes, but I think Bottas has done more, really. And if anyone's got more, anyone should be keeping a clean book, it should be Valtteri Bottas. So I think when you're comparing him to Bottas, I think, definitely put Russell in the seat. And I'm very excited by it, to be honest. I'm very excited by it. I think it will a couple of races to get up to speed, but it could really give us a nice little powerhouse at Mercedes, really.
Well, I think
which is something we don't need, but it'd be great.
Yeah, well, I think it's just exciting because, if the asterisk of if the move does indeed go through, but, you'll have the most talented young drivers at teams that are capable of winning races this year, and hopefully after switch two. And it's kind of all building up very nicely, where you've got McLaren seeming to be Norris's team and Ferrari being Leclerc's team, and then Mercedes. I think Russell will be competitive, even if it is still the Hamilton show. Whether it will be or not, I don't know, but I think Russell will be able to be competitive regardless of that. Obviously Verstappen at Red Bull. So you've just got all of these pieces kind of coming together, where it's, if teams do nail the regulations, then we should be on for a really exciting season between a lot of big players, and that's kind of what we want to see in F1.
Definitely, and the cost cap rules help that, and we've spoken about this a lot. But I think we're in for a pretty exciting future for Formula One. So yes, we think Russell, tick. Valtteri Bottas, Alfa Romeo. Would you say 99% certain, Nigel?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see where else it's going to go. I mean, Williams is the other choice, but it seems in the last 4 or 5 weeks or so that is where he's going to go. Not sure why, but I guess he's kind of stuck because if you think of the better teams, I guess they're all filled out. So he's kind of left with that unless he doesn't want to be in F1. But I think he's got a great opportunity to show that he can put in some great performances and show his talent because he's not been able to do that for the last 5 years or not, at each weekend. So I think it's a good move for Bottas. And I think people might realise how good he actually is.
Yeah, he's been a bit. If you can go back to his sort of Williams form, which was consistently punching rather than consistently being punched, then I think that would be pretty good for him. I was quite pleased with saying that, by the way. I'm very happy with that phrase. Adam, your Bottas spiel.
I think I actually kind of disagree with that a bit. That, moving from a team that is it still top of the Constructors' Championship?
Yes.
It has been dominant to a team that's nearly bottom of the Constructors' Championship. I think that's quite a big fall from grace. And if you look at, the other midfield teams on the grid, I think there's a few seats in there that, Bottas could be in, really. And I think, looking at Daniel Ricciardo, say, I think he's done better this season and, can probably do a better job at McLaren. Red Bull, I think he's maybe done a bit better than Perez this season, although that's closer. So I think it's quite a tough fall for him, to be honest. And yeah, it's, maybe that's kind of catching up with the fact that maybe there've been better drivers who could have been in the Mercedes seat while he's been having it. But yeah, it's going to be, I think, a very different year for him next year. And that's going to be I
think it's the reset he needs.
I think I agree with Nigel on that because of the stuff he's been saying today in the media day for Zandvoort. He's essentially been saying that it's sort of the first good multi-year deal that he's wanting to get a good multi-year deal, something that's never really happened to him before. He's been on tenterhooks every year at Mercedes, and it seems to be that he's rejuvenated by going to a team that is giving him a little bit more faith than Mercedes ever did. It seems to be what he's saying there. And I think, yeah, he had that at Williams, but I think he more had a kind of sort of, it was all year by year at Mercedes. So I think he's definitely buoyant because of the faith Alfa Romeo are giving to him, at least behind closed doors currently. And I think that can definitely have a huge impact on a driver. We've seen Valtteri be very sort of affected by defeat and things like that. His 2018 season was woeful, and sort of the latter half of 2020 was also pretty naff because he was just getting battered down. So maybe this kind of opportunity would sort of rejuvenate him as a driver. But I think we're yet to see. It's hard to sort of say, yes, it's a difference racing for the team that's in ninth in the Constructors to the team that's in first in the Constructors. That's how it is. But for Valtteri at this point, it's the job that he can do for a slower team. And if he can do a job that's very good for that slower team, he's achieving the best he can. It's custom stores that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they could be, the landscape will be very different after the 2022 regs. But if, just taking Alfa Romeo where they are now, they're not a competitive team, really. Even going somewhere like Aston Martin, where there's the chance to, get top 5 in qualifying if it all goes right, get a podium if it all goes right. And he's not going anywhere near that. For Alfa this season, a good job has been scoring points, getting into, Q2 and Q3. So, yeah, I think it's a shame because I think he could do a good job at a lot of the teams on the grid. And I don't really feel like he needs to slide this far down the grid to find a team or he shouldn't have to slide this far down the grid to find a team that believes in him.
But if he was going to do that, he would have, other drivers would have had to get out of their contracts. So I'll take Ricciardo, he's on a 3-year deal, wasn't he? Or Vettel or Stroll, they're on multi-year deals, I think. So it would have been a lot harder, whereas the Alfa drivers are all out of contract at the end of this year. So I don't really think he had the chance.
Yeah, but I just, it's that or Williams is the only option really available to him. But I just think, in general, it's not. I guess it's a good move that he gets to stay in F1. But beyond that, I don't really, think it's an amazing career move for him.
A lot could change next year.
Yeah, I think it's the noises we're getting from Valtteri's camp seem to make it sound to me like it's the best move Valtteri's got at this stage in his career, and that there's lots that's aligning to make it better than just a performance drop, if that makes sense, like I've just said. But we're going to see. I mean, talking about where Alfa Romeo are going to be next year is a whole different kettle of fish, based on if you listen to what Fred Vasseur and Javi Pujolas say, the technical director, that they're kind of very buoyant by the fact they've got a bit of money behind a regulation change this time, whereas they did it in 2017. They've said they've been reaping the crap from that basically since then. And the fact that they did a whole regulation change with tuppence, and now they're doing it with actually money. And I think that shows why they've got Bottas and he's not gone to Williams. I think Alfa Romeo can give him probably a few million more than Williams could do. But yes, it's the second seat in Alfa Romeo that I think is more interesting in terms of silly season driver market vibes, because there are a few drivers in the mix. We've got Formula E World's champion Nick Dufrese, also former Formula 2 champion. A name that's been flown around a bit is F2 ART driver and Sauber Junior Théo Pourchaire. A name that's fallen out of the mix is Alfa Romeo reserve driver Callum Ilott, who's now going to do a one-off in IndyCar. Is there anyone else that you guys think has been linked to this seat? It seems to me like everyone has at some point.
I guess Giovinazzi staying is the only one, but it looks unlikely at the moment.
It is looking unlikely at the moment. Essentially, every headline is leading with Giovinazzi out rather than confirming the other guys. But
I've not heard anything of Schwartzman being linked, which is a bit of a surprise. I thought maybe there'd be more on that, given normally a Ferrari Junior is linked there.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, because if Schwartzman does have a good second half of the season, which ends in December, and there's 6 races in December or November, which we won't find out for a while, then yeah, he definitely could be in the running as well. But the problem is, as I've said multiple times, the F2 season ends so late that the F1 teams want to get any contracts done now, so you can't really do it.
Yeah, I think it is the F2 format that's really scuppered Schwartzman here, really, more than
and Pourchaire.
Really. At least he's getting thrown in the mix. He did that private test with the team in the start of August with Mahavir Raghunathan in the other car. He's not been linked to the seat, though, interestingly. I thought he would be right in the running. But go on then, Nigel. Give us the case of Théo Pourchaire. Why should Théo Pourchaire get promoted to Formula One? Is he 18 yet?
That's a good question. I don't.
Yeah, he is. He's just turned 18 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay.
He's half the age of Freddie.
There we go.
1/3 of the age of Freddie, actually. So, Pourchaire, I think out of the whole, for the last 12 months, I think he's the one driver in the junior series who could become a future world champion. I really do think he's a special talent. And, the obvious thing, Piastri, no.
Okay. Carry on.
Pourchaire, not he'll race winner, yes, but not world champion. But Pourchaire, he jumps into a category and he just does well instantly. And I think that's quite something, especially in F2, which is quite tricky with the cars and the tires these days. And there's just something about him where I think if he does get to F1, I think he'll shine, kind of like Leclerc did in 2018 with Alpha. So that's kind of how I see him. Maybe I'm giving him, maybe my expectations are too big, but yeah, there's just something about him. Yeah.
Do you think, because with the Leclerc comparison, Leclerc had a completely dominant season in F2 and kind of Pourchaire, he's done well, but he's not, kind of running away with it the same way. So Does that kind of
Look at the
concern
field
you?
Leclerc had, though. It wasn't great. It was kind of
Well,
like
in this field, there's
2019
no
with Dufrese.
in this field, there's no future world champions apparently. But yeah,
I
I know what
think
you're saying.
There's no,
I
well,
think
there's
this
no future
feels
world
that
champions, but I think it's very good. It's a lot better than 2017, 2019. I'd say
Yeah.
it's similar to the 2018 with Norris and Russell and
Okay.
Albon.
I think it's a good field. I think Piastri, Lawson, and Pourchaire have all done actually really the same job in my eyes of coming into this category and doing very, very well. I think the arguments you give for Pourchaire, you can give for Lawson and Piastri as well, in my eyes. And I think they're three very good drivers. I do just think there will be gaps for them when there are gaps for them. And, you know, we've seen the sort of hyper promotion speed of some drivers like Tsunoda, where there's the next big thing, the big deal and that kind of stuff. And they're knocked out in Q1 every week and that kind of stuff. So I do kind of think maybe a bit of hesitation might be on the cards for that. But obviously you can't leave a driver on the sidelines for too long. Look at Giovinazzi. He was a bit half-baked because he was left out while he was on such momentum. So who knows really with that? I think he's a great driver. I was surprised to see him in the running this early on in his life, really. I'd say. Adam, what's your Pourchaire perusal? What's the word? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm perusing all the Pourchairs. No, I think I'd maybe agree with that. That he's had such rapid promotion. I mean, he was in ADAC F4 in 2019. You know, which is quite similar to Tsunoda, really, who just went from Japanese F4 to F3 to F2 to F1, I think back to back. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to, I think as long as he finishes in the top 10 this year in F2, then he'll get his super license and that'll be a big tick. And yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think I have a strong feeling either way. If he does get announced in the seat, I think fair play. That's really good. And I'm happy for him and excited to see what he can do. But equally, if not, like you said, there's plenty more opportunities. We know how beneficial the second season in F2 can be, and we can judge him more there. So, you know, I don't really, you know, there's more exciting drivers, not more exciting than him, but there's more exciting drivers out there who could take the seat, or equally, you know, he could. And, you know, there's a fair few drivers that I'll be happy to see in the seat.
Moving on to Nick Dufrese, just clinched the first ever Formula E World Championship for Mercedes. There's been a lot of push from Mercedes to get him into a Formula One seat. They think he deserves a chance. He tested an F1 car for the first time for them in Abu Dhabi last year. And mostly that's because really Mercedes have pulled the plug on Formula E. But do we think this 2019 F2 champion, who was mostly completely overlooked for a 2020 seat, do we think he's the real deal for a Formula One drive?
I mean, there weren't that many seats available in 2020. It was only Latifi, I think, that moved up, which is probably the reason for that.
Up to Dufrese,
yeah. But I guess I'm going to echo what Nigel was about to say, that he deserves a shot. And yeah, it's, you know, exciting. Again, kind of, you know, he had an up and down junior career, really, and kind of dropped in and out of. Was he in the McLaren Driver Academy? I think he was.
He was sort of the tail end of the Dennis McLaren proteges, and was so sort of usurped by Norris when Zach Brown took over.
Yeah, so, you know, I think, again, we don't know how, you know, he has been competing unlike Giovinazzi, but we don't know how that kind of will have affected his, you know, F1 Formula car driving. But, you know, it's a good seat to go into with someone in his position, that he's not being pushed in a bit further up the ladder. He can kind of get used to it. And he's had, you know, a fairly decent amount of F1 experience through being a Mercedes junior. And, you know, it'll be getting him another Mercedes junior in the seat. And that's good for the program as well. So kind of, yeah, excited to see, again, if he gets announced, you know, if him or Pourchaire, you know, equally excited to see them in.
It's an interesting move, because I would have thought he would go to Williams, but it seems Mercedes are now looking to bed him with Alpha. So I do think he deserves a chance. Whether he'll do well, I don't think so, which isn't good for a good look for Formula E. But he definitely does deserve a chance, and I hope he can prove me wrong.
I think of the drivers in Formula E this year, he's one of the few who's sort of had absolute raw pace on his side. For a lot of them have had classic Formula E japery on their side, which can get a bit frustrating. But I think Dufrese is one of the few in that series to me that's had pace on his side, and I think he's definitely a driver in the best form that he's been in of his life. And I think I'm I want him to get the seat because I'm kind of excited to see him in Formula One. I think I'm more excited by him now than I was when he was in F2. Definitely. I think that's mostly because, like Nigel said earlier, you had the Russell, Albon, Norris sort of influx, and then Leclerc before that, and Gasly before that as well. That kind of Dufrese was just that little bit of a tail end. But I think he's as good as, and he's competed with them all the way through his career and beat them at times. So who knows what's going to happen? But I think I want Dufrese.
Do you think, because we've kind of got used to, in our, most F1 fans in their driving market kind of predictions and thoughts, seem to be splitting the grid up into basically engine providers and like, we've got these, the Mercedes juniors go to the Mercedes teams and the Ferrari juniors go to the Ferrari powered teams or whatever. So if De Vries went to Alpha, do you think he'd like cut ties with the Mercedes program, or, because Ferrari do, I think as part of their contract, they have like control over at least one of the Alpha seats.
That's not
anymore.
Is it not? Okay.
With the Mercedes as well, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I think Pascal Wehrlein went to Sauber in 2017 and still had Mercedes branding all over his helmet and everything when they have Ferrari engines. I think it's just a case of really, if anything, it gives them a discount on a seat and then they can give some money towards Bottas, that kind of thing. So there were a few rumours that Alfa Romeo would take it Mercedes. We think that was more someone just being an idiot on Twitter rather than rumours.
Yeah, but it just, the kind of De Vries thing seemed to have come out of left field because normally it's Ferrari drivers who are linked to Alfa, and that's where the ILOT rumours come from, and the fact that he's a reserve driver, but he's only a reserve driver because he's with Ferrari's junior team. So, yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, that's all I had to say on that.
Yeah, Fred Vasseur has huge links. The Alpha team principal has huge links with ART, who were the team that Nick De Vries won the F2 championship for. He basically managed that team for about 10, 15 years, did Fred Vasseur. So like he's got a close eye on ART drivers and knows what's the deal with that. And he's just close with everyone, is Fred Vasseur. So I kind of think wherever anyone is, it would work out. I wouldn't be surprised if even a Red Bull driver ended up in an Alpha seat.
Or a Mercedes seat.
Well, there's a Red Bull driver ending up in a Williams seat.
There we go.
We think Alex Albon is going to take over from George Russell, and not from Nigel, who's left the podcast with his camera.
It's shocked Nigel so much hearing that his camera's broken.
Our resident Alex Albon fan, Nigel Chu, how happy are you to see a return to the 2018 Dams lineup from Formula 2, Nigel? I know you're a big fan of Dams.
Like a beaver. I didn't hear the question because of my internet.
Albon to Williams, what do you think?
Woo!
Albon to Williams. He deserves a chance to redeem himself, I think. I really do. It'll be interesting to see how he goes. Similarly to De Vries, my expectations are not that high. I mean, they were pretty low to begin with, and he still underperformed. But so we'll see how he goes next year. But I do think he deserves a chance because I think he showed enough in his AlphaTauri stint that he deserves it. That he should be on the grid, and probably should be this year. So it'll be interesting.
I really like the move, to be honest. I think he's shown that he can perform at Toro Rosso in, a kind of nearer the back of the, when he was at Toro Rosso, they weren't really a midfield team in the way they are a bit more now. So, I think the way he performed there was great, and hopefully it will transfer to Williams. I think it will. And, if if he can get the car working, and there'll be a lot less pressure, if Williams are where they are at the moment. And I think, like what you said with Bottas, I think it's a fantastic chance to reset for Albon and just go back to doing what he was when he first came into F1. And I think it's a great move for Williams. And outside of the kind of pure veterans, and Hulkenberg's maybe the biggest one, I think he's the best option in terms of performance and what he'll bring to the car. And in terms of, it's difficult to replace George Russell, obviously, but I do genuinely think he can get near what Russell's been doing. Maybe not every week, but I think he'll get there.
He's a driver. One sec, Nigel. He's a driver who, in his peaks in Formula 2, was way better than Russell and Norris on the days and that kind of stuff. And obviously on other days, Russell was way better than Albon and that kind of stuff. But that's how it fluctuated in that year. And he proved his pace, and he's got 2 podiums and that kind of stuff. Yes, arguably he was in the Red Bull. He could have done a bit more, but I mean, Perez has got 2 podiums this year. So, I mean, does that become a whole other debate? I think the debate that comes there is that actually Gasly and Albon are 2 very good drivers, because Perez is a very good driver. And I think Williams could do much worse than snapping up Alex Albon. And I agree with Adam. It could be a rejuvenation of his career. And I hope he does really well. I agree with all of what you guys have said about the Toro Rosso performances and a few of his Red Bull performances. So, yeah, I really hope he does well. I think there's a genuine chance he could rebuild himself as a decent midfield driver.
I think where Gasly was when he left Red Bull is pretty much the exact same position that Albon was, and Gasly's had that chance to go back to the junior team and upped his performance level once he basically just slotted back in there and was back performing. And I think Albon never really had that chance. So I think he can have a similar rejuvenation. He should have, by rights, he should have beaten Kvyat when they were in the seat together, and the only reason he didn't was because of the German Grand Prix, where he should have got 3rd, but he didn't because he was racing better, which is a weird situation. But I think it's a great move for Williams and a great move for Albon. I'm excited. I'm back on the Albon.
I'll talk more about it when it's confirmed, Freddie.
Okay,
that makes a lot of sense. We're just ticking off topics from the box at the moment because there's so much to get onto. There are a few little topics that popped up over the Belgian Grand Prix weekend that we need to address. Fernando Alonso is officially confirmed to staying for 2022. I'm going to be honest, I thought he was already confirmed for 2022. So I was a bit like, well, yeah, Alpine, come on, don't you know who drives for you? But yeah, correct decision in my eyes. 6 races in a row in the points before Belgium, which wasn't real. So good.
Yeah.
Cool. Perez staying for 1 more year. Good.
Now that I think so, but not 100%. But I don't see. Yeah, I'd say yeah, but not as certain.
I think for me, Perez's season has been proof that anyone's going to be way off Verstappen. So I think yes, correct decision for me. I think he's been better at being way off than the others have. So
yeah, I'd completely agree with that assessment of it. Really, he's not the perfect number 2 there, but he's the best shot that anyone's had at it so far. So yeah.
And he's not trying to be something else. He knows what the deal is. He knows what the deal is with the team. And the team have been quite candid recently about their development opportunities for 2022. And they have admitted that there are a few Verstappen traits in the car that are ironed out a bit with their 2022 car, which could make it a lot better for Sergio Perez and Verstappen to do well in it. So fingers crossed that is the case, and we can see a very good front-running Sergio Perez next year. Currently, that's all headlines mostly, more than on track, because obviously no 2022 car is on track, but we'll get there in 2022. Of course, there are more pressing matters at hand this weekend, which is the Dutch Grand Prix. First Dutch Grand Prix since, Adam, don't look it up.
86?
85, very close. 36 years ago. That might be where the 6 is in your mind.
No, it's just a guess.
Oh, wow. Okay. Honestly, the amount of times I've written 36 years ago in the past 2 days is beyond me. Probably 36 times. But yeah, we're returning to Zandvoort for a revamped Zandvoort. And to be honest, to me, it looks pretty mega for a qualifying track. All the words that have come out of it today is that it will be relentless, and all the drivers are pretty excited to get around it in a modern Formula One car. Adam, I know you've been excited for Zandvoort since 2019. So give us your excitement in word form.
Yeah, very. It's just, it's something different. It's genuinely different to most, if not all, of the other tracks. I think, yeah, qualifying should be mega. There'll be, you know, a bit like Mugello. I think it will look fantastic. It's by the sea as well, so there'll be helicopter shots of the sea and the beach. Yeah, it's just, you know, turn 3 is my favourite corner on the F1 game by a significant margin. It winds through, you've got sand dunes, and then it winds up and down, and then to the right, and then to the left, and then, oh, it's just amazing. And it's got a little stadium section, and the Dutch fans are going to be amazing. And it's going to be, yeah, I'm so excited. And it's got banking, which is fun. There was a great video of Will Buxton rolling down the banking to test how steep it was, and he didn't actually get as far as I expected, but there we go.
Video. Why did he do that? It's just going to hurt so much.
I liked it. You know, it's
you don't
fun.
like Will Buxton?
I don't mind him. I liked it. It was great. Yeah, it's just, you know, I think hopefully the race, you know, hopefully we get Mercedes and Red Bull fairly close, and we get some different strategy or something, because I think it will need that to mix it up a bit. But yeah, I'm just excited to see a full grid of F1 cars going through. Some of it's quite narrow, most of it's quite narrow, really. But yeah, I just think there's going to be some fantastic shots and onboards and all of that, and scenes of the Dutch fans, I don't know, jumping up and down a lot.
Adam gave us a note before we recorded this podcast saying, when we get to the Dutch Grand Prix bit, I won't have that much to say, but he's just waxed lyrical for about...
No, I said I won't have that much to say other than that I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Honestly, looking at everything come up with the track today and the redevelopments of it, and just the way it looks like a cross between Suzuka and Imola for me. And I'm feeling pretty similar to how I did when Imola came back on the grid, in terms of like, oh, it'll be great for qualifying, the race will be a bit naff, which was the case in 2020. So I think it's going to be pretty similar to that. I think the qualifying is going to be mega, and the race might well need to rely on a few little spikes of someone making a mistake in a really unforgiving moment, which seems to be everywhere on this track. And I think Saturday is what I'm buzzing for at the moment. Of course, as well as seeing the Orange Army go crazy.
Just to jump in before Nigel as well, there's a lot of sand / grass / gravel runoff, so it's quite punishing if you do make a mistake as well. Sorry, Nigel.
All right. I think, well, I can tell you the Dutch are incredibly excited about this. They are absolutely booming. They haven't had it since 1985. It is going to be quite something, even though it will only be 2/3 full from what they wanted, with 70,000 spectators there. And it's going to be absolutely brilliant. The track is fantastic, proper old school, no track limits at all, which you can rarely say for most circuits on the current F1 calendar. It is just going to be so high speed. It's a shame they're not going to have DRS on the final corner, which they originally planned to, but that might change. They said they're only going to have it down the main straight and then down the back straight. But I think it is going to be something special. The race might not be great, but qualifying, it could be. It kind of makes up for not having the Japanese Grand Prix, because Suzuka is great for qualifying, and having Zandvoort kind of makes up for that a bit.
Yeah, in fact, the track was designed by the same person who designed Suzuka, so the similarities probably are because of that, which is fair enough, really. I'll point you guys to a few quotes that Daniel Ricciardo gave today, that about basically how tough this track's going to be. He said, it'll be tough on the body. I predict it to be maybe the toughest race for the neck. just looking at the nature of it, we've got 72 laps around here. Such a short lap. It's relentless. Straights are not that long. So we've got maybe 2 seconds of rest and back in it again for another minute or whatever. It's going to be so great, basically. May the strongest, fittest, courageous man win. I think he's basically thinking the driver can make the difference around here. And I'm inclined to agree with him a lot. So you might see some bigger disparities than usual. Even though we just had Spa, where Kimi Räikkönen was 2 seconds slower than Tony Giovinazzi in qualifying. But anyway, this is going
to be important to be good quickly. So free practice one, you can't afford a mistake because learning any new track is tough. So yeah, and that would be quite important. The Red Bull, I'd say, have had the edge over Mercedes in that department this year.
I think so too. I'm buzzing for FP1, really. I'm quite excited just to see this track just as a track. I mean, you see...
It's about 2 a.m. for me, so...
You get pictures on Twitter and it's like, oh, that looks cool. Can't wait to see a car go around that. You see all the steep banking. It's going to be a non-event now when an F1 car goes around the banking. We're just going to be like, oh, there we go. That's happened now. But I'm really excited. I'm very excited. I'm really excited. Guys, I'm really excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah. There's just so much to be excited about. And I don't know whether that will be like dampened after if there's a boring race, but yeah, just to see it in action is going to be exceptional, and I cannot wait. It's worth getting up early for.
Yeah.
Do we have any bold predictions for this Dutch Grand Prix? Do you think anything crazy is going to happen, or even though we just all said that we think it might not? If you had to put your heart on the line and give a really ridiculous prediction, what would you say, Nigel?
I don't give ridiculous predictions. I just give a prediction.
All right, do it.
I think Norris will split Mercedes and both Red Bull. I think he'll be third or fourth.
That's fun. I like that. Adam, am I going to like your prediction?
I mean, I've got my ridiculous one would be like someone throws a can of Red Bull at Hamilton's car as he's going round or something. For a more measured one, I don't know. I don't really know what to expect from this. Like, it's any kind of prediction would really be a shot in. I'll get another good qualifying from Russell, as he maybe has on the eve of maybe having his Mercedes thing announced. But yeah, I don't, qualifying will be important. Actually, maybe I'm more points for Russell. I'll go another point scoring finish for Russell, because I think qualifying will be important.
That's a fun one. I was going to lean towards something like Nigel has done about Norris redemption for qualifying in Spa, that kind of thing. But I think I'm going to go Giovinazzi Q3 just to be weird. Just for the sake
that
of
is a weird one.
Yeah, that's...
when you just have a hunch that Giovinazzi is going to get into Q3.
I'm going to change mine to point scoring for Williams, just because I want to... If Latifi scores points and Russell doesn't, then I'll be fuming. So
3 points scoring in a row for Latifi?
For anyone in a Williams is the main thing.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to expect, which is part of the reason why I'm so hyped.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, as you can tell, dear listener. But yes, that's it from... Oh, I dropped the thing I threw in the air on the floor. That's it from us on the Winging It F1 podcast.
I didn't see it.
This Dutch Grand Prix preview, driver market, silly season, lots going on, podcast.
Extravaganza.
Reunion. Exactly.
It's everything. Everything you can want in a podcast.
Wow.
There was everything you wanted in this podcast. We're sure. If you wanted something else, maybe you'll find it on our Twitter feeds. I'm at FredCoates1999. Nigel is at Nigel C. Journo, and Adam is at Adam Dickinson01. He is in America at the moment, so you might get a lot of posts about Oklahoman American football.
I'm going to the football game this weekend. I'm really excited. It's going to be...
will get posts about that.
Yes, it's going to be many posts. It's going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff in probably like 35-degree heat. So that's going to be interesting. But take a lot of sun cream and a hat. But yeah, there wasn't... They're playing a team from New Orleans, and it was meant to be at New Orleans, but obviously because of the
course.
hurricane, they can't play it there. So we've got an extra bonus game, which isn't a bonus for people in New Orleans, but it's a bonus for us getting to watch another football game here. And yeah, I'm excited for that as well. There's just so much to be excited about this weekend.
Yeah, definitely is. I mean, those of you on the Has Adam Got an American Accent Yet card bingo competition, he hasn't yet, I think we can basically confirm, but who knows for the review podcast coming out at the start of next week. Be sure to give it a check out to see how much of a drawl he's picked up from an American football game. But before then, all the best. Enjoy the Dutch Grand Prix, guys. I think we will. Goodbye.
Yes. Goodbye.
Nigel, say bye.
No.